We're now about to have our Libris training, and this is going to be on an introduction to ALMA analytics data visualization. And let me stop my sharing, and I will make you a co-host, Yoel.
Okay, thanks a lot.
It's all yours.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's begin today's session, data visualization. I'm going to assume that there's little to no knowledge of data visualization. I'd rather start at a too basic mode than a overly advanced mode. And I'll share the screen first of all. Where is the share screen? There we go. And okay, so you should be seeing me. And these are the topics we'd like to cover. We'll start with a brief overview. Then we'll go to creating bar graphs. We're doing different visualizations. The goal here is that by the time we're done, you'll be able to play in your own environments with data visualization and continue learning that way. You'll have the basics to play around, and when you play around, you'll be able to learn more. The nice thing about analytics and data visualization is you can play around all you want and you won't ruin anything. It's not like configurations in ALMA that if you play around the wrong way, suddenly you can't loan an item and something's not viewable in Primo. Here, it's a read only. You're not changing data, you're just displaying data. So the data visualization is accessible from the analytics menu, just like the analytics is accessible. So here, for example, we have design analytics, which goes into analytics, and data visualization, which goes into the data visualization. These menus appear to a user who has role designs analytics. Just to refresh ourselves, if I go and I look at a user, I'll look at myself here, user details, and the role designs analytics gives the user the ability to go into analytics and to go into the data visualization. In my case, one moment, please. This one right here, designs analytics. In my case here, I have designs analytics and I have designs analytics Primo and data visualization Primo. If the institution has Primo V, then they see them both. The material we're going to be looking at, I'm going to send out to everybody a link right now. We're actually not going to look at it. We're going to do it live, but for your own use later, let me send this out to the chat here. Here is the link. And we've got many blogs here on the Developers Network. I'm going to open this up, Developers Network, open a new tab. And then we've also got YouTube videos. So these are blogs specifically dealing with data visualization, how to use the functions, how to create a bar graph of most used platforms. In fact, we're going to start off with that one today. The catalog and the navigation, we're going to finish with that one today. And there's many more here. And there's also the series of YouTube videos. This is one we did just a week ago with a simultaneous translation to Chinese. But there's all kinds of topics here. There's a general overview, a 1-hour general overview. There's creating a forecast, which is something we're going to do today. A map visualization, something we'll do today. So there's a lot of different options here of things to go through and do on your own. So let's begin. Just going to jump right in and start doing something instead of just talking about all the theories behind it. We're going to go into the Primo data visualization and make a bar graph of the most used platforms. And along the way, we'll look at different functions within the data visualization. So from the analytics menu, we'll choose data visualization. This time, just data visualization, which is ALMA, not Primo. The next one will be Primo. And we're following this one here. how to create a bar graph of the most used platforms. By the way, what's nice about the Zoom as opposed to the WebEx is I don't have that thing on top covering the tabs of my browser, and it makes it a lot easier to move around. I haven't figured out how to get rid of that thing on the top of the WebEx. Okay, so let's begin. So we went in, the first thing is to create a project. In analytics, we create a new analysis. There's the menu new analysis, and that analysis is a report. In data visualization, it's called a project. So up here on the top right, I'll choose create and then create project. And we can either take the information now to the project from a data set, which is something else we can build. We'll talk about that another time, or from a subject area. And these subject areas are the same subject areas that we have in Alma Analytics. So let's take, for our case, the usage data, add to project. And now I can start building my project. What do we have on the screen here? The left pane here is the data panel. That's where we see the data. It's the same subject area we have when we're using Alma Analytics. Here, where it says select visualization to view details, is called the grammar panel. We'll see how that works in a moment. And then there's the canvas where it says drop visualizations or data here. So let's see. If I put in now a measure, for example, the usage totals. Once I drag that in, because I'm dragging in a measure, it automatically chose here, it says auto visualization meaning it's choosing its own visualization. It's choosing what's called a performance tile. I'm going to get rid of that. If I had chosen something different, such as the platform name, platform, now it says auto visualization table. Now it's giving me a table. I can change that around, and we will change it around. But by default, depending on the data that I drop in there, it gives me a certain visualization, a recommended visualization. So now I have the platform, and I'm going to add the usage per platform. So under the usage data details, I'll take this usage measures total, and I'll just drag it in. And I can drag it in like this. I'm dragging in another column next to the platform name. I could also drag it in over here to the grammar panel and just add it next to the rows. So now I've got the platform name and the usage total. There's many ways to filter. One way to filter, probably the most simplest and popular way, is to drag a field, an attribute or a measure, a field to the top where it says click here or drag data to add filter. I'll drag that in. I'm dragging the usage measures in, and now I can make a filter. And one filter here is by range. And it can be done by dragging like this and dragging like this. And then everything will be only those within a certain range. Or I can type, maybe I want only up to 50,000, if there's anything like that. Yes. So that's one way to do it. I can also do what's called top or bottom N, meaning give me the top 10 or the bottom 10, top 5, bottom 5. And for that, instead of this range, here I'm going to click a little arrow. There's a little arrow next to the name. And then by filter type, instead of range, which is the default, I can choose top, bottom, N. And then I can say, do I want the top or the bottom? I'll take the top. And do I want 10, top 5, top whatever? I'll take the top 5. So that's one way to do the measure. Excuse me, to do the filter. Another way to do the filter, I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of this this filter now by clicking the menu and doing delete. Another way is by using something called a expression filter, which is like writing an SQL. So for example, if I want to filter by a platform, here I am on the bottom, I'm clicking filters and then add expression filter. Now I can start writing an expression. For example, I'll drag in this platform and I can say, for example, is like, and maybe it's like anything starting with PROQ. And this is like the same as writing an SQL. And after I write it, I can click this calculation, this validate. For example, if I had forgotten to put the apostrophe and I click validate, it tells me it's invalid. So I can do it like that and then apply. And now I'll have anything that starts with PROQ. I'm going to see if there's a fancier way to do that. I'm going to edit the filter. I'm clicking again the expression filter. And this time, modify filter. I think I can say here, give me the lower, oh no, not like that, like this. I'll say, give me the lowercase platform. So now it gives it in lower, anything starting with PROQ. Let's see if that's going to give me any more. Let's see, first of all, if that's correct. Yes, apply. Okay, that also works. I just wanted to make sure if one wasn't written with the capitals and the capital Q, etc. So that's another way to filter. But let's, I'm going to remove that filter that I just made here. I'm going to click the X. I'm on the bottom left filters, clicking the X. And let's go back to the top 5 or top 10. So I'll put the usage measures up on top and click here to the little arrow, filter by top N. I'll leave the 10, fine. So now I've got the top 10. And the visualization here is a table. We can change the visualizations. And the nice thing about the data visualization is there are so many different types of visualizations. And we can choose whichever one we want. We can even duplicate one visualization and leave the other visualizations. But we're going to change right now this, for example, to a graph. So now I got a graph, or I can change it to a pie, which typically isn't popular for something with 10 different values. Usually 3 or 4 is popular for a pie. I'm going to put it back to a table. And we'll see we can also, the reason it's now in colors is because I have the platform here in the color instead of in the rows. Okay. Although it actually looked kind of nice with the color. Another way is to duplicate one visualization, have both of them, and then start changing them around. For example, either by doing a right click and getting to this menu, or by clicking these 5 lines over here, 4 lines, 5 lines, the menu, under edit, I can duplicate the visualization. So now I've got 2 visualizations. One, I can make a chart or a pie graph or whatever and leave the other one a table, however I want it. So this one, for example, I'll click here where it says change visualization type. And this one, I'll make a bar graph. Now, each one can also display the data differently. For example, I don't want all these funny colors in the graph. So here in the graph, I can take this platform and move it to the x-axis. Now I have colors on the left and I don't have those same colors on the right. If I want to view this whole canvas slightly differently, on the bottom right here, I've got these toggle things. It says toggle data panel. We said at the very beginning, the data panel is the one all the way on the left. So if I click that, now the data panel is minimized. This we said is the grammar panel where it shows what I'm displaying. If I click this, now I don't have the grammar panel. I'm on the bottom right. There's two icons. One is toggle grammar panel. One is toggle data panel. So now I'm looking at two different visualizations. And the one on the right, as an example, I can right click it, sort, and choose the different methods of sorting it. For example, I think it would be nice to do this from high to low. So total high to low. And I can also do that here and say usage measures total. I've got ascending and descending, high to low. And I'm going to save this now. I'll save it for now under my folders. And I'll call this top 10 platforms for usage. Save. It's a basic but nice visualization. And now I've got the share option also. And I'll share it to a file. And I'll share it. I can do it to a PowerPoint, a PDF, an image, etc. I'll send it out to a CSV if I have the table and I want Excel. I'll leave it as a PowerPoint. I'll put it out to ARBA because that's what we use here, A4, and save. So that, depending on how your browser is set up, will either save it automatically, open it automatically, ask you. Mine is going to ask me automatically. And now I've got it open. And now you see I've got the top 10 platforms for usage displaying here, and everything's good. Okay, that's just the basic introduction to creating a data visualization project. I'm going to stop for a moment. Let me go back to let me close this PowerPoint and go back to the Zoom. Here we are. And let me go to the chat and see if there's anything in there. Does anyone have any questions or comments? I don't see anything in the chat. I'll wait 1 second if anyone has a question or comment. Okay, I'm assuming there is no question or comment, and we'll go on. So now let's go take a look at something in Primo, in data visualization of Primo. Everyone's still with me? I always get concerned when there's no questions or comments. Maybe we lost communication or something. Just let me know, one of you, that you're still with me and hear me and see me. Okay, you're there. Okay, so let's go now to the data visualization for Primo. All right, I am no longer logged in. Oh, there we are. Okay, let me. So this time we'll choose the analytics. And we'll go to data visualization Primo. And a reminder, the data visualization for Primo will appear if you have Primo V. If you have the Primo back office, you won't have the data visualization for Primo. And here also we'll do create. And what we'll do this time, there's another blog on this. We didn't even look at the other blog, this one here. I guess we covered everything. Now we're going to do device usage for Primo. We're going to see how is the institution viewing Primo. For example, are they mostly using an iPhone? Are they mostly using a PC? And perhaps the goal is that I want to know how are they viewing Primo, because if I want to make some changes, I need to make sure I accommodate a mobile view for an iPhone, just as an example. So first, we're going to add some fields in here. I see we're really not going to use these blogs. We'll just kind of, everyone can read them though on their own. So we're going to create a project, go to the subject areas, the same as we did last time, and we'll choose the Primo device usage. Okay. And now we'll start adding like we did last time from the data panel on the left to the canvas on the right. So we want the usage for sure. And before we drag in a measure, and it's really a best practice, before dragging in a very large measure, it's a good idea to put a filter in first. Otherwise, you're bringing all the data, then you're filtering it out. It's more efficient to first make your filter and then bring the data in, because then it's not working so hard to bring everything in the entire history of Primo. So let's say, for example, we want in the dates, we want the year, or let's say the date filter here. I'm dragging it to the top. And we can say here we want the previous year. So I'll get all of 2020, a nice range. It's also good I'm getting the entire calendar year. Maybe there's some things that happen differently in January than in middle of the summer. So I'll choose previous year, and then I'll drag in the sessions. So now it automatically this time gave me the performance tile because I brought in a measure. We saw that last time as well. And I'm going to change this to a table, because when I'm just starting, even if that's not my final goal of viewing it as a table, it's an easy way to see the data and filter things around. So I've got the sessions. I'm also going to want the device, of course. So now I see the device and the session. Let's also look at the year and the month. So we'll drag in the year. And we'll drag in the month. Now, when we drag these in, I can either drag it like this and put it right inside the table, or I can drag it here in the grammar panel and put it somewhere specific. Either way. So now we've got the year, the month, the device. Maybe I'll actually put, it really doesn't matter because I'm going to make a line graph, but I might want to put the device at the beginning. If I put the device at the beginning, then I'll have a separate section for each device. Now I've got all the laptop PC and then all the Android. That's the same as in the analytics. However you organize a table is how it iterates, I think is the word, or aggregates. In any case, so now I'm seeing all of January, all of February, all of March. Now I see here that I've got WinPhone and iPod, which I really probably don't want. I just want to focus on the big ones. I also don't want laptop PC. I know laptop PC is a huge one. iPod and iPhone and WinPhone, I see there's one case of them, at least for February. So there's a couple of ways to filter those out. I can right click and say remove selected. Or I can drag the device to the top. Let's drag the device to the top, device name. And here I'll say that I want the laptop, the Android, the iPhone, even the iPad. I'll put the iPad in. No, iPad actually was kind of big. We'll leave the iPad. So the iPod and the WinPhone, because they're so small, there's really no need for us to, one or two cases. So now I've got the data. Let's save this just in case something happens. I'll click save. I don't need to do save as because it's the first time anyway. Oh, I got Primo device usage here. I'll call it this for previous year. I see I made one in the past and called it last 365 days. This is for the previous year. Okay, now let's view this as a line graph, because then we'll be able to see the trends and see which ones are the biggest, and we'll do a couple of different visualizations, all with the purpose of learning how to play around here with the visualizations. So let's convert this to a line graph. So up here on the table, up here in the visualization options, instead of table, I'll choose the line graph, and I'm probably going to have to play around with it. I'm telling you in advance. Yes, we have to play around with it. So on our x-axis, the bottom, we'll probably want the year and the month. And in the y-axis, and then we'll want the sessions, the different devices to appear in different lines. So let's take the device. I'm in the grammar panel. My mouse is on the device. You can see the device is selected. It's dark blue. I'm going to drag that to the color. Nice. So now we've got laptop, Android, iPad, iPhone. We see the key on the bottom. And because the laptop PC is so big or so much larger than the others, the scale is off and we hardly see the differences between the Android, iPad, and iPhone. And the Android, iPad, iPhone is really the section that we want to deal with here, because we know everyone uses a laptop PC, but we want to know, how are they using the other devices, and is there some kind of trend, etc. So let's edit the device filter and get rid of the PC also. So here, I'm going to click this arrow, and, or better yet, I'm going to click the whole thing. And for laptop, I clicked it to remove it. It says deselect. So now we have Android, iPad, iPhone are the ones that are appearing. And we see the same trend. We see a jump from January to February for all of them. Then we see it goes down towards the summer, comes back up September, October on all of them. But we do see by far that iPhone is the largest. And then Android and iPad are more or less the same. We see that in January, February, March, the Android was more than the iPad, but then the iPad went less from May, June, July, August, September even, actually to the end of the time. It took it over here. Right here, they met. In any case, so this is one nice visualization, but let's also view it so we see the actual percentages. So like last time, we can duplicate this one and have two of them next to each other. So we can right click and do edit duplicate visualization. And in addition to the right click, we can choose here the menu on the top right and also say edit duplicate visualization. So now I've got two visualizations. I'm going to get rid of the data panel right now because we don't need all that. So I can click on the bottom here, toggle data panel. Now I've got more room to play. I want to leave the grammar panel because we're going to want to play around with that in a minute. And for the one on the right, doesn't matter which one, but I'll do it the one on the right. I'm going to make a donut. A donut is a way to view percentages, kind of like a pie chart, but it's just visually different. So I'm going to change the visualization only for the one there on the right. So here we have this icon here, change visualization type. I can also use this one we've been using until now, as long as I'm focusing on the right pane, or to be more exact, it will change whichever visualization I'm focusing on. And I'm going to choose this one here, the donut. Now, what we'll do here is on the left one, which is the line graph, we're going to leave all of the fields as they are. We have the year, the month, and then the devices. But for the one on the right, we really don't need the year and the month. We just want to know the percentages overall for the previous year. So the main point I'm making is each visualization can contain different fields. So in the one on the right, I'm coming down here, but the right one is being focused. You can see that the one on the right is the one with the blue line around it. That's the one we're concentrating on. And on that one, I'm going to click an X right here next to year. I'm clicking the X. The year is now gone. Give that a second. That blue line along the top is moving to the right. That means it's working. And then I'm also going to get rid of the month. You can see here in the grammar panel, bottom left, I'm clicking the X next to the month number. And that one's gone as well. So now I've got, excuse me for saying, I think it's a nice visualization. I can see the device usage for the previous year as far as trends go on the left. On the right, I've got the actual amounts, or the percentages to be more exact. And now I can make an evaluation. I know for sure that any changes I do to my Primo views, I should make sure that they're good for an iPhone, because the iPhone is the main one being used, almost 60%. We know PC laptop, that's a given. And that's why we got rid of it. But for the others, I need to make sure that for an iPhone, that's the main thing. Now, there's all kinds of ways to interpret a graph like this, actually. I could say maybe they're not using the Android very much or the iPad because the interface isn't good for it. I could go that way instead of saying everybody's using an iPhone. Let's make sure we do it well for the iPhone. In any case, now I've got two of these. I'm just going to save one more time, and I see there's two chats, so let me go take a look at the chat. Okay, what is, someone asks, I'm going to put this out, and you can ask anything you want. I don't say anyone's name here, so you're covered, but so that everyone can see what I'm answering. Let's go here and here. Okay, so someone asks, what is the term you are using for left panel? Grammar panel, grandma panel? I wanted to make sure I use the right term. Yeah, maybe it's grammar. Grammar, like grammar is the answer. Let me take this and align that way. So grammar is the one I'm using. Although that's interesting. Maybe next I'll start calling it the grandma panel, and we'll see if it'll catch on, and everybody around the world will call it the grandma panel. It's the grammar. Excuse me for not pronouncing it clearly. It's grammar. And also on the bottom right, when we're inside there, the icon here that pops up says toggle grammar panel. So that's called the grammar panel. There's another chat here. Someone says Tennessee Tech has back office, but I have Primo visualization available. Did you, I'll just put that out so everyone sees what I'm saying. So someone said this in the chat. Typically, if somebody doesn't have Primo V, they don't have Primo visualization. However, we started this initiative like maybe even a year ago already, or several months ago, called Go Primo V, where if you don't have Primo V, I don't know the exact situation at Tennessee Tech. I'm just saying it could be what I'm describing. We started an initiative called Go Primo V to try to move people to Primo V. And in the Alma menu, you'll have a Go Primo V icon depending on your roles. And it may be that the process has already started and therefore you're seeing it. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look. That, what I just described, sounds like a very probable reason that the initial setup and the infrastructure side has been done, and therefore it's already showing. That could be. Otherwise, I'd have to look more in depth. Okay, so that covers the chats that I saw. And I'd like to go on to something which is a really big change in data visualization as opposed to just regular analytics, and that is the forecast, the ability to take a trend and add in a forecast. You know what? I've never done a forecast. No, let's do it the way we've always done it. Okay, so I'm now going to make another, I'm not even going to look at the blog here. There's a blog exactly on this. Everyone can look at it themselves. There's also this movie here. You get a 10-minute movie, 9 minutes and 48-second movie on how to do what I'm about to do now. And you have the links to all of that. I sent out the main link at the beginning that points to the blogs and to the YouTube videos. Okay, so a forecast. First of all, before I go look at the forecast, the data visualization uses two different forecast methods. One is called ARIMA and one is called ETS. And I'm stressing here at the beginning that it's not inventions of Ex Libris or inventions of the OBI, which is the Oracle Business Intelligence, which makes the data visualization. This ARIMA and ETS, I'm just on a regular internet site. You can go do a Google search on them. There's all kinds of algorithms that do a forecast. They're similar, by the way, to the weather forecasts, where they look at patterns for several years and based on that can go and say, tomorrow it's going to be rainy. So we're going to do an example on that using fund expenditures for physical material versus fund expenditures for electronic material. Look at the patterns over the past X years, see how they developed, and what do we think is going to happen for the next 3 or 4 years or 6 years. That's the goal now. So I already saved this. This is the first one we made, the first visualization. I've already saved it. So I'm going to go home, and then from home, I will create a new project. And in order to go home, on the top left, next to where it says Oracle Analytics, there are 3 lines. That's the main menu. And from there, I'll go home. So now it's like I'm starting over. And again, we'll create, top right, create a project. So until now, we created projects using subject areas. We did one in analytics. Then we did one in Primo Analytics using the device usage. In analytics, we use the usage data. Now we're going to use the funds expenditures. By the way, this whole set of subject areas, I can view this also in list view. If I click up here on the top right, those 3 lines, now I see a list of them. If I click the grid view, then I see it this way. And if I start typing, then I get only those that have whatever I type. So now I've added the fund expenditures. And we see that in the data panel. So in the data panel, we already have 2 or several, but we're going to look at 2 of them, pre-built measures of expenditures by format. So here, for example, we have the expenditure amount for electronic format and the expenditure amount for the physical format. I'm going to drag those in. This time, unlike previous times, I selected them both with my mouse and dragged them in. And now it's given me, let me go to the grammar panel. It's given me by default something called an auto visualization scatter. I'm going to change that to a table. Okay. So now I'll also want the year, because we want to get a line graph of the trends of how much was expended for physical, how much was expended for electronic, and then from the end of the trend, do the forecast. So I need some kind of a year or some kind of a date so that we can follow the trends. So I'll go down to the transaction date folder, grab the year, and throw that in. Okay. So 2003, I don't want. I'll start with where we have the real data is 2005. A lot of times when looking at these kind of situations, the kind of data we see here when we're looking at real historical data could depend on the migration and what I don't want to say what legacy system they came from, but sometimes you don't have data all the way back. 10 years. If someone migrated from system X, I'll just say X, in the past 2 years, we might not have 10 years back. But here I do have way back. And let's see what's going on here. So let's say I want from 2005 to 2020. I don't want 2021 because I don't want to take part of a year. I need full years in order to have proper data. And when making a forecast, it's always best to have as much data as possible. Just like if we go back to the weather example, if a weatherman has 2 years back, or if he has 10 years of examples, he can follow the patterns a little better and know if it's really going to rain tomorrow. So here, if I come back all the way from 2005 to 2020, I can get that. And one way to do that is to select them and say, keep selected. That's another way to do a filter. We did a filter by dragging a field to the top and filtering, and we did a filter by using the expression, if you recall. Now I did a right click, and that automatically makes a filter up on top. If there's any questions about the filters, tell me. But that's a third way to do a filter. Now let's put this into a line graph. So instead of table, we'll say line. And now we need to start playing around with this because we have correctly the year on the bottom, on the x-axis. The y-axis should have both measures. So I'm dragging it up. And now we've got it. So what do we see here? Something very typical. The orangish yellowish line, as it says in the legend on the bottom, is the transaction expenditure amount of type physical. The green is the expenditure amount for electronic. And as is very popular around the world, it's usually somewhere between 2011, 2015. Here, it's like right in the middle of that. It's between 2013, 2014. At some stage, the expenditures for electronic became greater than the expenditures for physical. And then it kind of evens out. And that's what we see here. It evened out from, let's say, 2016 to the end. It evened out. But we want to know now, what do we expect to happen in the next 3 years, the next 6 years, whatever? So now we're going to go check and see, can we make a forecast and then have it get extended? First, I'm going to save this. So I'm going to click save here. And I will say line graph of expenditures with forecast. And line graph with expenditures. Nice. Okay, never mind the spelling errors on that. So now we're going to add the forecast. The way to add the forecast is either I can go to the menu here and say add statistics forecast, or as we already saw when we duplicated a visualization, I can get to that menu also via a right click and then have the same menu. So now I'm adding the forecast. Now that blue line moving along the top, just on the top right, just above where it says cancel, there's a blue line. It's now thinking to do the forecast or doing the calculation. And we'll see in a moment. Okay, so now it's got the forecast. The section that goes from 2021 to 2023 all the way on the right is the forecast. And we can see here on the bottom left in the data panel that the model it's using, the default for the forecasts, is a model called seasonal ARIMA, and the total number of periods is 3. I'm going to change this to 6. So where it says periods and it's 3, everybody sees on the bottom left, periods, it says 3. I'm going to change that to 6. Hit enter. Again, the blue line is moving along the top, right above there where it says cancel. And as soon as it finishes the calculation, which it finished, now I've got 3 years. And what does this seasonal ARIMA think will happen? It thinks that the green, which is the electronic format, will continue to go up, and that the electronic is going to take a great dive. And that's all according to these algorithms of what is ARIMA. Let's change it just to see. I can change this instead of seasonal ARIMA. I'm on the bottom left. If I click the seasonal ARIMA, I can choose now just regular ARIMA. And again, now that blue line is going across the top. And now instead of seasonal ARIMA, we'll see regular ARIMA. Okay, so regular ARIMA is even different. Regular ARIMA says both of them are going to go up. Then there's one called ETS. I usually use ETS when I save something and then want to show it. I like the ETS. So now I'm going to click on the bottom left, the ARIMA, and instead choose ETS. And if I remember correctly, the ETS here is just going to give me a straight line, thinking it's going to just continue. Nope. So the ETS thinks that the electronic format is going to continue as it is straight away, and the physical is going to be ending. And this is a forecast, as we know, it's a machine, it's not a human. He can't take into account all kinds of things like that there was this COVID pandemic. Notice I'm talking in the past in order to really emphasize that it'll be over, give it some strength to end, that there used to be this thing called the COVID pandemic, and it may influence the fact that physical materials will be ordered less because libraries get used to electronic material more than they were before the pandemic. This forecast is looking purely, of course, at numbers, not human causes that went around, unless somehow we were able to put in here more data that there was a pandemic, but that's not the case. Okay, so that, I'm just going to save this. That is the forecast. Are there any questions or comments about a forecast? I'm going to go to the chat. I don't think anything else came in. I don't see anything else came in. Are there any questions or comments before we go on? No. Okay, so now let's go to something called functions. Functions is a way to take an existing field in analytics, and you can do this in analytics actually also, but it's not called function and it's a little more difficult to do. It's a way to take an existing field and change it around, give it like a default value, give it a different name, make it lowercase, make it uppercase, etc. So let's go back to those blogs. And there's one here about the functions, and let's take a look at it. So FUNC. Okay, how to use functions on fields in ALMA Analytics and data visualization. I'll take the example from here, and that's what we'll do. So first of all, this is a nice example, yeah. Let's take a look, in fact, at one of these demo environments that I'm already in. I'm going to say, I'm going to go back home. So on the top left here, I'm going to click the 3 lines and go home. And I'm going to create a new project in the fulfillment subject area. Create project, subject areas, fulfillment. Oh, I'm in the Primo here. Sorry about that. This is from before I was in Primo data visualization. So I'm going to ALMA data visualization. I could do it also in the Primo, but the fulfillment subject area happens to have several cases where it's nice to show this option, because a lot of times in the, let's just make sure I'm refreshed here. I'm going to do a quick search. And a lot of times in the fulfillment subject area, there are things like library names or policy names, which were added by different people over different periods. And sometimes it might be uppercase days, and sometimes it might be lowercase days. Sometimes a number might be an actual number such as 1, and sometimes it might be words such as ONE. So those are typically places where it's nice to use a calculation. In any case, so now I'm going to create a project, and I'll choose the fulfillment subject area. And let's take a look at the policies. Now, by the way, something else I didn't show until now. If I want to look for the policy, now the policy is probably in the loan details, and I could click loan details and start looking. I'm not even sure if that's where it is, but wherever it is, if I don't know where it is, I can always go to the search here and just write all or part of the field. We don't have policy here. Okay, we'll take something else. So, no, we do have policy. It's even in here. Policy name. Policy name. Okay. Policy name. Loan policy. There's a whole folder for the loan policy. Okay. So I'm in the fulfillment loan policy. Let's see what the policy names are. Boom. Okay, so I got hours loan, week loan, days loan, end of day, end of term. That looks more or less okay. It's always numbers. It's not sometimes letters. Let me check one more place. Here, we'll also say home, create, project, subject areas, fulfillment, and policy name. Why am I often missing the policy name? Anyone out there want to help me? Policy name.
Second folder,
The
right under
folder
loan
policy.
details. Right underneath that.
It's actually under loan policy.
Oh, there
Right
we
there,
go.
loan
It's got
policy.
its own. Oh, I was looking by P for policy, and it's under loan policy. Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's say here, this is also a good one. I know one was bad. Sorry about that. You see, on the one hand, I could have made a PowerPoint and had environments already ready and reports already, and then this wouldn't happen. On the other hand, that would be kind of boring because, you know, people don't want to go look at a PowerPoint the whole time. So doing it on the fly like this, on the one hand, it takes a little longer. On the other hand, it's more truthful. So here we go. Create fulfillment, project fulfillment, subject areas, and EFG. There we go. And now we know it's called loan policy. So we're there immediately. Okay. Blue line on top is moving over. We'll give it a minute to be patient. Taking a long time to show my policy names. What we're going to do here, I'll explain while we're waiting, is make another field. We'll call it policy name revised or policy name correct or whatever. And it will take parts of the policy and change the text. Great. So for example, the second one has loan with a lowercase. The third one has loan with a lowercase. The first one has loan with an uppercase. This one has loan with an uppercase. This one has loan with an uppercase. So let's make another policy name, which anytime it has the word loan with a small L, it will make it a large L. Just as an example, so that we have something uniform. I could go change the names of the policies and the terms of use and the whole physical fulfillment setup, but for things that have already been loaned and have that, it's a different story. So what are we going to do here? Up here, let me get a real report here, just so we have something. So I'll say number of loans, not in house, and policy name. All right, basic report. Now, so I'm going to click the plus on the top is where it says add. I'm in the data panel, clicking the plus, choosing add calculation. Do we have 4 minutes left, just so I know?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So now I can use the different types of expressions. One of these expressions is called replace. And it uses under string. I really don't even have to know anything because all of the options are already here. So under string, there's something here called replace. And it says, it already tells me how to do replace expression, expression, expression. So the expression, the first thing it's going to replace, I need to say, what is the value? And there's a couple of ways to do it. I can drag it in here. I've got the policy name. I could drag it. And I believe if I start typing, it will also, but I'm going to drag it in. I've got in syntax, I dragged it. Now it says policy name. So I'm going to say anytime I have loan in lowercase, give me loan in uppercase. And then I'll call this policy name for reports. And I'll use this one in the reports. Validate like we had last time. Everything is good. Save. So now that calculation will appear at the very bottom here. If I scroll all the way down, now I've got my calculations. If I drag that one in, now you can see this one here, the regular policy name says loan in lowercase, and this says uppercase. This says lowercase, this says uppercase. This is lowercase, uppercase. This is uppercase, and this is uppercase. So now I have uniformity. And I could do that also with 1, 2, 3 and all, get all the numbers. But I think we've covered it by using only the policy name for reports. I'll get rid of here the one policy. And if we already are here and we already have 1 minute left, I'll take this and I'll sort this descending. And we'll make this into a graph. Let's even make it a horizontal graph. And let's sort this by high to low. And so now I've made a graph of policy names and their corresponding numbers of loans. And I've been able via a calculation to make some uniformity into how the word loan appears. Okay, I see a chat came in. Oh, someone wrote 5 minutes. Okay, so I don't need to answer that one. Okay, so thanks a lot, everybody. I think we're at the end. Are there any other final questions and or comments before we finish? I don't think I'm coming for another session. I think my colleague Jenny is doing one Friday on Primo. So I'll say goodbye to everybody. Thanks for having me. And maybe next year there'll be a really in-person eBUG. Let's just assume there is. For next year,
that's the plan.
I hope it'll be a nice in-person conference.
Thank you for doing this. We really appreciate it.
That was a lot of fun. So thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have our sponsor presentation, which is Third Iron.